Do you ever get confused with image size, resolution, file size, all these different things? I'm going to demystify all of this for you right now, where we talk about image sizing, resolution, scaling, all those things inside of Photoshop for beginners. Hey Cafe crew, it's Colin Smith here from photoshopcafe.com, and today we're going to clear up image size, resolution, all of that stuff, because I know it can be so confusing when you first start in Photoshop. So this is geared towards beginners to help you understand image sizes and resolution. For example, let's look at this image that I've created. Okay, how many people have been confused by this? Here's an image, and I've got rulers showing. That's Control R or Command R showing rulers, and I've got it set to inches. I can see this is almost 11.5 inches. I'm going to click on another image, also set to inches, and this one is only 10 inches. So this should be smaller than the other one, right? So you got to combine it by click, drag. The tab will open of the image you're going into. Don't release yet. Go into the middle and release, and suddenly this butterfly is huge. Why is that? Shouldn't it be smaller? I mean, after all, this is 11.5 inches and this one was only 10 inches. I know the first time I used Photoshop, I got completely confused by that. And that's because of a thing known as resolution. So let's take a walk down resolution right now and see if we can, no pun intended, resolve this issue. So there's 3 different units of measurement that you might have heard referred to. Image size, image resolution, and file size. So when we think of resolution, there's 2 terms that you might have heard, and that's DPI and PPI. So quite often you'll hear people say, I want to use this for print, send me a 300 DPI image. I know what people mean, but it's not actually accurate. Or someone will say, okay, send me a file, make sure it's 10 megabytes. That's not really giving us the information either. Or why don't you send me an image at 5.5 inches? And then you print it, it looks all soft and weird. So inches are not accurate. The resolution is not accurate. And the file size is not accurate. Why is that? That's because they all work together. Okay, let's start by talking about the difference between, we've got a digital file and a printed file. So the term DPI stands for dots per inch. So when you're printing a file, how many dots fit within that inch? So obviously the more dots that fit within there, the smoother the image is going to look, and that's a higher resolution. Typical for print is 300. Older days, they would print newspapers at 150 or even a 72, and you could see those dots. Even sometimes when you see those older newspapers, you can see the dots on there. They're visible because the dots are so big. So there's less dots within an inch, which means that those dots are less dense, which means those dots have to be bigger, which means you see them. Those are considered low resolution. The higher the resolution, the more dots squeeze into that area, the smaller they get, until you see something like a beautiful magazine or a coffee table book where you don't see the dots at all, you just see this beautiful print. And those could be 450 dots per inch. So DPI stands for dots per inch, and it's a print term. If you're printing on your printer, you might be printing at 300 or 600 or 1200. Don't worry, all of this will make sense. So the dots per inch, we're talking about ink. Now, a lot of people mistakenly talk about dots per inch when they're on a computer. They're like, okay, let's make this 300 DPI. Well, you're doing the equivalent of DPI, but on the computer, it's not called dots per inch. It's called PPI, which is pixels per inch. Because there's no ink, there's no dots on your computer, you're dealing with pixels. But before you get too confused, when people are talking about DPI and PPI, just think of them as the same thing. I don't know why when I was learning, people didn't just say that, because I got confused. I've got like DPI and PPI. Well, what is it? How do I, what is 300 PPI in DPI on a computer? Well, 300 DPI on a computer is 300 PPI on a computer. We're just talking about pixels versus dots of ink. If we look at this image right now that we brought this into, we can see the image size. If we go down the bottom, you'll see there's a little arrow. Click on this arrow and you'll see something that gives us different options here. Choose document dimensions. In document dimensions, you'll see that this is 11.5 inches by 11.3 inches at 82 ppi. So let's have a look at this other one here, this butterfly. If I look at this butterfly, and let's change it. Let's go down to the document dimensions, and we see that this is 10 by 7.5 at 300 pixels per inch. Okay, so think about that for a second. To get that size, we know there's 300 pixels per inch. So that means if we have 1 inch, that's 300 pixels. So if we have 900 pixels, that's 3 inches worth. So instead of doing the math, there's another way we can view this. If we're inside of our image and we choose image, and we go down to image size, and this is actually where you resize an image, but I use this a lot to do calculations for me. If we look at this image, I can see, hey, this is 7.5 by 10 at 300, which is what we see here. But here's the number that really matters. When you're on a screen, the only thing that matters is how many pixels is it. The dimensions here, it tells me it's 3000 by 2250 pixels. This is its actual size. And the reason it gets to 10 by 7.5, okay, so if we take this 3000 and we divide it by the resolution, which is 300, we come to 10 inches. If we get 2250 and we divide that by 300, that comes to 7.5. Remember, it's 3000 by 2250. If we look at this other image, and let's go up under image size, and if we look at it now, notice it's much smaller image in resolution. It's 939 pixels by 932 pixels. So if we look at this, notice the resolution is set to 82, which is my monitor resolution. I'll explain that in a second. But if we take 939 and we divide it by 82, then it comes to 11, it comes to these numbers here. So we divide these by 82, they come to the width and height. Let's not go through all that again. And that's why this image is actually smaller than the other one. So if you want to know how large an image is, look at its dimensions up here. And if you want to do it, we can multiply it by, if we multiply this by that, this will give us this number as well. So if you take 11.451, multiply it by 82, this is going to come to the pixels. So that's why, or apparently smaller image, because it was only a 10 by 7.5, appeared larger. And that's because if we go once again under image size, look at this. Image size at 300, it's 10.75. Once again, these are the true dimensions up here. 3000 by 2250 are the image dimensions. Don't even worry about image size right now. That's a different thing altogether. Image size is talking about a file size. It has nothing to do with the physical dimensions. The physical dimensions of this, if I was to print this at 300 dots per inch, even though it's showing PPI, there's no dots per inch here. And of course, you'll be doing pixel centimeters if you live in Europe or New Zealand, Australia, most of the world, apart from the United States. So if we do the resolution here at 300, which is the print resolution, this is going to print out at 10 by 7.5. So if I take this and I print it onto a piece of paper that's large enough at 300 pixels, and I measure this, this is going to be 10 by 7.5 inches in size. That's its print resolution. Now let's go look at the other image again. If we go back here and we choose image, image size, once again, we're looking at this at 11.4 by 11.3. If we printed this at 82 dots per inch, which would be a really low resolution and the print wouldn't look very good. So in order to make this the same size as the butterfly, this image would look soft where the butterfly would look crisp, because it's a larger file. There's more pixels. Those pixels are more dense. And we looked at the size of it. The true size is the dimensions, 932 pixels by 932 pixels, or 939. Okay, so once again, resample is turned off, so it doesn't change any of the sizes of this. It's not resampling or changing it. It's just saying, what does this look like at 300? So when I change that to 300, it goes 3.1 by 3. So essentially, I can print this out at 300 as a 3 by 3, and it's going to look good. So it's actually a much lower resolution image than the image of the butterfly, even though at first it appeared big. And that's why when I dragged that butterfly image in, the butterfly was so much larger than this image. Okay, so when you're not working in print resolution, you're working on screen. This is known as screen resolution or multimedia resolution. Some people call it web, but it's a digital resolution. It's on your phone, it's on your TV, it's on your monitor. And these are a different resolution. Now, the standard used to be 72 because all the monitors used to be 72 pixels per inch. That means a physical inch, 72 pixels would fit in there. Now, as screens have got better, we've got things like Retina, which are over 200. They're coming very close to print resolution now. That's why when you look at the screens now, they look super smooth like print, like they're very crisp, and it's almost like the image is floating above the glass. Whereas earlier screens, things would look kind of blocky and pixely because those were lower resolution. Now, you can tell the resolution of your monitor just by simply looking it up. Or let me go in here and I'll describe. So I've gone in here with this image and I've chosen image size, and notice that this is set to a resolution of 82. The reason for that is because this monitor right now is set in HD at 82 pixels per inch. So that means if I zoom in to 100% on my image, which I'm doing right here, and I look at these rulers, by the way, Control R, Command R, we've got that set to inches. If I take my ruler right now and I put this ruler on the screen, it matches exactly. So 11 inches on this ruler is 11 inches in Photoshop at 100% view. Remember, the 100% view is very important. So if you want to see everything at its proper size on your screen, first of all, figure out what the resolution of your screen is, and then set the image to that without resampling. Let me show you what I mean once again. So if I go here and I choose the image and I go down to image size, remember its true size is the pixels dimension. And when people talk about resolution on a screen and they're talking about, giving somebody a digital file, how big do you want it? Don't tell me you want it at 4.5 inches, because that means absolutely nothing. Because if that was 4.5 inches at 300 DPI, it's going to be, or 300 PPI, it's going to be really big. If that was that same size at 30 PPI, it's going to be really small. So that's not an accurate size. When we're talking digital and you're talking about an actual dimensions of an image, talk in pixels. Then it doesn't matter how you're viewing them, they're always going to be the same. So if we look at this, our image here is 939 by 932 pixels. If I don't resample this, the pixels are not going to change. Right now it's set at 82, which is the resolution of my monitor. When I put the ruler on here, it matches that ruler at 100% view. If I change this to 300, once again, don't turn on resample because we're using the same image. So when I do this, all it's doing is displaying it differently. This is not going to change it. Notice the dimensions are still 939. I can make this 1,000. Notice it's still 939. That is not changing. So if I go here and I set this to 300 and I click OK, the image didn't change. It's exactly the same image. So the computer works with those pixels. So if that's a 3000 by 3000 pixel, unless I resize it, it's always going to be 3000 by 3000 pixels, no matter what resolution I assign it to. So really that resolution means nothing, except if I look at it on screen right now, the image did not change. What it does is it just changes the rulers. So if I look at this now, notice it's only 3 inches. And if I go here, it's way off whack, different than what I'm seeing on my ruler. So if I'm trying to guess the screen sizes, it's really hard to tell because now they're off. So the only reason you set your screen resolution to anything, the only reason there's even a resolution on the screen when you're working in pixels, if you're not going to print, it doesn't matter at all. The only thing that matters is for your viewing pleasure. So if you set that resolution without resampling to the resolution of your monitor, and you can look it up in the specs or do what I did, just put your ruler up there, measure that block at 100, and then keep changing the resolution until that matches the size. So if I go here and I'm at 100 and I'm like, okay, I see this is 11.4. I'm just going to keep changing that resolution until that ruler shows 11.4. Of course, I could just go in there and force it. So, let's just go in here and choose image size. Once again, and we're going to do our width. We're not going to resample, remember, and it's about 11.4 as a guess, but it's pretty close. Okay, so 11.4. See, that came to 82.3, so that was a pretty good guess, but it's 82 is the resolution because I've already done that. So just put something at 100, put your ruler up there on it, and you can measure it, and that's how you can get to the size. So I know it's 82. It's 11.451. All right, so now when I do this, notice once again, this is not going to change. The image did not change at all. This is still the same image. It didn't change a single pixel. All it did is made the ruler see it now as 11.5 inches if I'm working in inches and I want to have a one-to-one view. So now I know when I look at this, this is the accurate size or the real size working on this monitor. So this just kind of helps you build out your projects, having an idea of what they are, the one-to-one size. Now, when you're delivering these, though, you're generally going to be delivering them in some kind of a pixel format. So generally when I'm working, unless I'm ever going to go to web, I just go into rulers and I right-click and I change this to pixels. So notice now I'm looking at this in pixels and I see it's at 930-ish pixels. We can see that. I click on here. And now, whoa, look at that. We can see it's 3,000 pixels. So when we're working on the screen, notice once you go into pixels, you can see the actual size. And now it's clear that this butterfly is much bigger than this image. So that means if I take this image into the butterfly, it's not going to fill the whole screen. But we know that because now we're working in pixels. Pixels are digital, dots are print. So just remember, couple of things here. Now we've been talking about this resolution, and I'm saying this over and over again in different ways, hoping it's going to click, that you're going to get it. It's just going to click, because this is a really fundamental, important thing for you to understand if you want to work successfully in Photoshop. If this is confusing, rewind it and watch it again. So, okay, guys, I know this is a very long video, and I've given a lot of information in here. I'm curious, this is definitely a very fundamental topic. But it's a topic that's not really covered very often. A lot of people don't explain it. And fortunately, I have a background where I've worked in print as well as web and multimedia and things like that. So I understand kind of these different resolutions and how some of these standards have changed over the years. So hopefully the way I describe this to you is in such a way that you can understand it. I was a little more long-winded than I want to be, but I also covered a lot more ground, and maybe I could have made this 3 videos. So let me know in the comments underneath if you found this useful, if you learned anything, if you got it, if you finally understand size and resolution. And let me know, is this length good, or do you prefer shorter videos, or do you like these more longer in-depth videos for these beginners tutorials? And also let me know what's your favorite day. What's the best day for me to be releasing these videos? So anyway, guys, that's it. If you're new here to Photoshop Cafe, I do a regular tutorial every Tuesday. We do a live stream every Thursday, and every Saturday right now we're doing these beginners videos. We haven't determined the day we're going to release the videos for the beginners set and cement yet. But anyway, if you like these and you want to see more tutorials, hit that subscribe button, and that'll let you know. Turn on all those notifications, and YouTube will let you know when I upload a new video. So anyway, guys, that was a lot of work. So I hope this was worth it. I hope it helped somebody. Definitely a little more technical than I like to do a lot of the time. I prefer to do more artistic, but these are the fundamental things that people really need to understand if you want to work professionally or just work efficiently. So anyway, guys, if you liked it, smash the like button into dust. And until next time, I'll see you at the cafe.